Hello, my name is Robert R. Ricks, and this is Infernal Justice, presented for free from Rymass Publishing and NovEps. Before we get started, I wanted to give kind of a fair warning on this particular book. To people who know me from Magic Really Sucks, this may not be your cup of tea. The story you're about to read has been sitting in my head since the summer of 1989. It was birthed on a filthy bus heading downtown in San Francisco. I had joined a few friends to go to an underground club and check out a show of a band I didn't even remember. Anyway, the story was born from a simple pamphlet meant to scare people to walk a righteous path. And the only real part about it I can recall, and I'm paraphrasing, if you fucked up and acted religious, and you were really an evil piece of shit, then you'd be punished sevenfold the deed. And then the story popped in my head, and I wondered if I could write a story where the main character was an evil, horrible motherfucker, and the other character was equally as bad. Who would the reader root for? It was an interesting concept, and at that moment on that sour-smelling bus, Infernal Justice was born. So why did it take me 30 years to write the damn story? Because it's dark. Darker than I usually like to write. There's things in the story which really bug me. I told my wife I really despise my main character, the things he'd done, the things he'd do. She asked me, then why write it? That was a good question. I wanted to write it because it's a good story and there's some really good messaging and concepts in there. Plus, when I write, it's more like I'm seeing a movie play out in my head. This one tended to get some vibes which kind of felt like pornographic and snuff, but it's not explicit or anything like that, so don't worry about that. I didn't go into explicit detail on most of the things, but suffice to say, this shit right here is not intended for young audiences and not intended to be played out loud in a public space. This is meant for mature adults who understand the language and harsh realities that exist in our world, sad as it is to say. Also, the other thing I wanted to point out is there's a lot of stuff that happens in this book that's kind of like telepathy. So when you hear an effect that sounds like this is a normal speech right here. But this is how telepathy will sound. So when you hear that, you'll understand that that's telepathy. That's a private conversation happening between the main character and Scan, his watch. And so that way it will make more sense. If you had the book and you're reading along, you'd be able to see all of those little private notation marks. But inside of an audiobook, that may not be apparent. So again, this is regular and this is telepathy. Alright, here we go. Infernal Justice, Part 1. Enjoy.
Chapter 1. These violent delights have violent endings. William Shakespeare. The cool rain poured down upon my face, and I shivered slightly as a strong wind tore through the woods. I smiled to myself, knowing the night would bring many rewards as well as my release. Where the fuck are you? I muttered to myself, more annoyed than anything else. Where the hell are you? You're never this late. Must be the fucking rain. Yeah, it's gotta be that. I glanced at my datacom, which was firmly strapped to my left wrist. The time display read 9:45. Shit. Come on, don't fuck this up, you cunt. I scanned the area around me and could see nothing but the woods and the pouring rain. I pressed the silver pad of the datacom, and my temples throbbed slightly as Scan initiated his PSI link. Yes, Corey. You called? Yeah. Stay online. I'm gonna need you to regulate the infravision in this fucking rain. I can't see a thing. One moment, please. I'll need to make a few adjustments to your eye. Go ahead, but hurry. The datacom shot a slim crimson beam directly into my eye, and I could feel Scan inside. I could feel him probing and manipulating the data flow, and with each minor adjustment, the world around me shifted slightly. I could sense more than just the probe inside me. I could feel his presence. It was odd. Out of all the multitude of people and cybers that inhabited this fucked up world, the only thing I could trust was Scan. Scan was an advanced prototype of Cytec's latest line of military equipment. He had cost me a fucking small fortune, but he was well worth it. There you go, Corey. Try it now. I think you'll be pleased with the results. I again scanned the area, and this time it was different. Everything around me was in a debadger. That was the problem with using infravision in the rain. Everything was chilled by it. That would interfere with detecting the heat signature that I was scanning for. If she were too well insulated, I would miss her. I snapped back to my senses when I spotted a dim, but familiar heat pattern. I smiled to myself as I watched the pattern grow brighter. Excellent. She was coming straight to me. It seemed she finally decided to make an appearance. She passed near me, not more than 3 feet away from my hidden location, and I watched her. She was wearing a long, blue raincoat made out of some synthetic material, which shielded her from most of the rain. A red umbrella was near her, held tightly as if to keep her safe from the evil that lurked within the shadows around her. It was an antique, the umbrella. It was a thing of the past as she was. Instead of keeping up with technology, she was one of the few who actually preferred the old ways. It was that puzzled me about this woman. Why dwell on the past when the present was available to be seized? I was one of those people who would take the moment right then and there and worry about the outcome later. I mean, what the fuck? You only live once, right? Might as well fucking enjoy it while you can, cause sooner or later we all died. The woman in front of me had lived her life and had done well. It was now my time to prosper. I'd take what she had and enjoy my work at the same time. What was it that Darwin had said? The strong survive and the weak must die. I really loved that science shit. I smiled to myself. It was time to go to work. I pulled out my leather mask. It was a work of art made from synthetic leather, with razor-shaped spikes attached to the brow of it. I pulled it on and smiled broadly. The mask was purely for terror tactics. I had no intentions of letting the woman survive what was in store for her. No, she would have to die. At least she would get the exhilaration of the chase though. I wore the mask for the initial look upon my victim's face. It's a look that is hard to describe, but if I had to put words to it, they would be pure terror. I waited for her to get a few yards ahead of me before I began to stalk her. I knew exactly where I'd get her, so I patiently followed her. I wanted her to get a little deeper into the woods. I pulled out my blade, which was easily a foot long, and it weighed nearly 2 pounds. The blade gleamed dully, catching what little light there was on its perfect surface. Scan. Are there any hounds around? Negative. The nearest one is 2 miles away, traveling away from our location. Excellent. Let me know if one comes within our vicinity. I will. I sprinted for the woman and saw her head whip around quickly. I heard her gasp in terror as she saw the blade. I couldn't help myself from laughing as I slashed at her. I missed on purpose. I wanted to take my time and enjoy myself. She retreated quickly and slipped. Everything was moving in slow motion for me. I watched her as she staggered back. The umbrella fell and was devoured by the icy mud. She broke into a full sprint that was pathetic. She had to be in her late 70s, and I in my early 20s. It was no competition, really. I could walk faster than she could run. She was breathing heavily and trying to scream for help. Granted, there were no titanium beasts nearby, but there were other people in the park. The last thing I wanted was to be seen by someone who would sell me out for a couple of credits. I quickly kicked her against the knee, and she fell as I knew she would. She screamed out loudly, and I watched as she fell into the mud. There are many things you keep with you your whole life, but nothing so vivid as a memory of killing someone. I could remember every person I ever killed. I could describe each beautiful act as if I had just done it. This would rank as one of my favorites, I could tell. The power was what turned me on. I had all the power in the world. I could either spare the woman, or kill her like the insignificant waste she was. Nothing could prevent me from spilling her blood. In effect, I was God. She was crawling away from me, and I stomped down on her back. I stomped low, right above the buttocks. I was surprised by how loud the crack was. I knew I had succeeded in crushing her spine. I paused and watched her. She was barely conscious, and that bothered me. I wanted her awake for the gift. I wanted to stare in her eyes. I glanced around me quickly, checking for stray heat patterns. I had to make sure no one was around. Scan. Do you sense anyone? Negative. Good. Keep an eye out. Affirmative. I turned my attention back to the woman at my feet. She truly was pathetic. I rolled her over and began my search. It didn't take me long to locate what it was that I was searching for. Tucked inside her jacket was a small satchel full of credits. That was a big mistake on her part. You should never venture into the dark with a full bag of credits. This would be the last mistake she would make in her miserable life. I tucked the credits away in my pack and continued searching her. I began at her ankles and worked my way up. I checked under her, at the small of her back to check for a concealed weapon. Nothing. Dumb bitch. Should have had a piece. Oh well. I continued searching. My hand brushed her saggy breasts and I couldn't resist a quick squeeze. They were formless and flabby. I chuckled to myself and continued my search. I felt something under her shirt and reached in for it. I pulled out a long gold necklace with several small pendants hanging from it. A cross, a bear, and a unicorn. Corey, I think she's regaining consciousness. What? Good. I stood up and backed away a step and waited. Corey, this is tactically dangerous. You do not have time to play. Scare my friend, there is always time to play. She moaned softly and her eyes fluttered. She tried to roll to her side, but a swift kick put her back in her place firmly in the mud. She screamed again, such a beautiful scream. Her eyes met mine and I paused. I reached up slowly and pulled off my mask. She recognized me. You? Remember me? She started crying. It was always like this. They all cried when I took off the mask. They knew at that moment that they were gonna die and nothing they could say or do could prevent it. It was like the same play with different actors. Please, don't kill me, she begged. Shut up, bitch. Again I kicked her, this time not as hard though. She was fragile. I didn't want to break her just yet. My eyes caught the faint glint of something metallic on her left hand and I focused in on it. It was a wedding band with a huge fucking diamond. Well, look what we got here. I reached down and pulled her hand to me. She tried to resist, but she didn't have to strengthen her. I tried pulling the ring free from her soiled, ancient hands, but the ring wouldn't budge. It was like the ring was a part of her. She managed to get enough strength to snatch her hand away from me and hissed out a threat. No. Leave it. You monster. This is all I have left. What? You're fucking killing me, lady. You got a bag full of credits and you say this ring is all you got left? When I'm finished here, you won't be worrying about your pretty, fucking ring. Please, take anything but not my wedding ring. It's all I have of my husband. Husband? Who would marry an ugly sack of shit like you? What happened to him? Wait. Don't tell me. He was fucking you. Good in the ass and died coming. Right? He came and went, right? Get it? He came and went. She glared at me and a new look flashed in her eyes. It was a look of anger and pain mixed together, with a touch of something more familiar to me. Madness. My husband was killed by animals like you. You killed my... I punched her quickly, solidly in the jaw so hard, it hurt. It shattered easily and blood exploded from her mouth. She was losing it quickly. Shut up. Fun time's over. But I'll give you a gift in just a moment. Don't worry, this will be quick. I reached down quickly with my left and slashed with my right. Her finger landed a few inches away from her body. The ring rolled free and I retrieved it. She gurgled up a faint scream and I turned to face her again. Now. That didn't hurt that bad, did it? I looked deeply into her eyes. They were glossing over quickly. I studied her face. I wanted to remember every detail as she died. Tears and blood mingled with the rain on her face as mascara dripped down out of her hollowed, sunken eyes. She looked so old, so helpless. You know, you look like my mother. I stuck the blade deep in her shoulder and kneeled on her sternum. She screamed again and I knew it would be her last scream. Remember the gift I told you about? Here it is. You get to see your husband now. By the way, if there is a god, tell him Corey. Black says to suck his dick. And with that, I pulled the blade through her collarbone, and with the anger that nearly consumed me, slashed at her throat until it was a gory mess. I stood and wiped my brow gently. I was breathing heavily. I looked down at my work again and saw the pendant. I pulled on the chain and it came free. I smiled at myself. Seems like someone lost her head. Pity. I pocketed the chain and looked around. Scan, do me a favor. I'm already ahead of you. Scanning for hounds. I waited a moment, my heart beating strongly, and I took a deep breath enjoying the chill in the air. No hounds within range. Good. Now to do some cleanup. The last thing I need is for some memory recall to come back and haunt me. I retrieved my pack and opened it. There was a small vial inside. I opened it and the air was immediately filled with a caustic chemical smell. I took my blade and pressed a small button on the side. The blade started giving off a slight vibration and electrical charge to it. Scan, is the vibroblade working correctly? Yes, it will do what you are thinking. I nodded and slashed the top of her head and the head opened up to reveal the bloodied mess and exposing her brain. I poured the liquid over the surface of the brain and watched as the flesh began to bubble and then dissolve. You think that's good enough? Yes, the hounds will not be able to detect your scent, and the brain is also dissolved enough where a mental reconstruct won't be an option. I nodded. That was good. I enjoyed my nocturnal joy rides, and the thrill of the kill was something I needed. It was the only way to get a real release. Sex would provide a fraction of what I felt deep within my core. I examined the ring and focused on the diamond. Scan. Analysis. That ring is worth approximately $4,900 credits on the open market. A rough estimation would be $1,000 with no questions asked. Really? Not too bad. You don't need the extra resources. That was true. Ever since I had scored the key to the kingdom, credit wasn't an issue. We both know why you do what you do. Yeah? Your adrenaline levels are elevated from the hunt. You have a large dose of dopamine flowing through you, and your endorphins are elevated as well. Not to mention your levels of oxytocin and serotonin. Ah, Scan, you say the sweetest things. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you are calling me a junkie. In a manner of speaking, that's not too far from the truth. But your history and actions reveal that you are a classic example of a narcissistic, hedonistic, serial killer. But you still love me, right? Of course. We should go. The longer we wait, the greater the chance. Understood. Keeping to the shadows, I started walking back to my ride. I knew someone would find my mess and I wanted to be sure I was a good distance away. There is an alert coming from the car. What? What's up? Never mind. Someone attempted a breach. They have been dealt with. I nodded and picked up the pace. Scan had been correct. There was a burnt corpse hanging from the side of my car. In his hand was a screwdriver. He had obviously tried to slide it into the slot where the window would roll down, and so the car defended itself. With a kick, the body fell to the side and I shook my head. Fucking idiot. I pulled out my necklace and at the end of it was a clear sphere with a small pump, and an eyeball. I stepped to the car and put my hand on the door and felt the electrical sweep, then the door opened. I got into the vehicle and closed the door. The engine started up and I could feel the power. Where are we going, Mr. Pike? Any pawn shops open nearby? I don't want to be too far from home. There's one 3 minutes away. Open 24 hours. Go there. The car rose up off the ground and I felt it pitch forward slightly as it lifted and moved forward. It was nice having a ride that could get me to and from the upper and lower cities. I preferred to hunt in the shadows of the upper city since most crimes weren't investigated as thoroughly. Influence had its advantage for sure. And yet your pattern of attacks are random. There is a pattern, but I doubt the authorities here will figure that out for at least another 20 or 25 killings. The biochem you use to cover your tracks will begin to set that pattern. True. We'll need to figure another way to deal with the kills. Perhaps leave the mask on. And lose the look? Nope. I will continue to crunch numbers and advise. Thanks. The car landed and I saw the garish neon on the building and noted there was no one outside, and the rain had picked up. We have arrived. Good. Keep the engine running. I don't expect to be gone long. Yes, Mr. Pike. I got out of the car and the rain was coming down hard now, so I ran to the opening and pressed the button that was labeled for entry. Press the fucking red button. Yeah, what you want? I got some shit to sell. Don't waste my fucking time, man. I held up the ring and turned it to catch the light. There was buzzing and I opened the door and entered. A huge man covered in tattoos stared at me and pointed to the ceiling. Looking up, I saw there were 2 large plasma cannons trained on me. Don't start no shit, won't be no shit. Now that we know, we will play nicely. What you have there? A ring. I walked over confidently and kept my head held high, maintaining eye contact, and kept my hand neutral. How accurate are those guns? Pretty accurate, but they are easily hacked. You can hack them? And control them? Yes. Fuck, then do it and let me know. How about cameras? They are also not protected by sufficient firewalls. Shit, then disable them and scrub the video if things go sideways. Understood. Okay, let's see it. I tossed the ring to the man whose hand moved a little too fast and caught the ring in mid-flight. He was augmented. I was sure of it. Yes, his arms and his eyes. Military grade? No. Civilian. Illegal too. Arms have been modified beyond legal limits. Ah, he must be a fighter then. Perhaps. The man examined the ring and noted the blood on it. Seriously, man? I don't like this kind of shit. You jacked the lady for this? Nope. But I did fuck up her husband. The blood belongs to what's left of him. She was trying to carry his body. I negotiated the payment owed me and she wisely gave up the ring. Sure, pal. What you want for it? I'm not trying to play games. I know it's worth close to 5 Gs. I'll take 1. Yeah, that's mighty fucking fair of you. But you forget, I gotta handle this shit, and hot shit brings burns. You and I both know this is gonna be super hot, right? Okay, what you thinking then? 5, hun? Maybe 7, if you take a trade for it. Hacks are done. I have control of his cannons and the cameras. Good. Trade? What could I possibly want? What you into? I got guns, blades, hollow bids, games, robo chicks. Robo dudes. I got all kinds of shit. Robo dudes? The fuck, man? You think I'm into that shit? How the fuck would I know? I nodded. True. What you got for guns? I have shotties, rifles, gats. Ammo. Anything interesting? Nah. Just standard shit. Equipment? Anything military grade? He thought and nodded. Yeah, I have a stealth jacket. How's it work? Bin's light or some shit. Some soldier's wife had his gear after he got iced. She just wanted to get rid of the shit. It works. Too small for my ass. Probably fit you good. What you want for it? Trade it for that datacom you got there. He pointed at Scan. Ha. You wish. No, seriously. How much? With trade? 3 Gs. That fair? If it is working, yes. Show me it is working and maybe we got a deal. The man nodded and pressed a button on the wall. You fuck with anything and the guns up there go boom. I nodded as I watched the man open the back room, and as he did, I saw a safe which was slightly opened. Holy shit. Is that safe open? Yes, I am looking through the camera and he does indeed have the safe open. Dumb fuck. More guns back there? Yes, but they are all in the same system, and I have access to them. Fucking A. This is my lucky day. You see anything good back there? There is an assault rifle, military grade MMJ-50 energy assisted 50 caliber and loaded with explosive heat-seeking rounds. There is close to 135,000 credits. Also, in the safe there is something wrapped in some sort of leather. Heat-seeking? Oh, Scan. We are gonna jack this motherfucker so good. He is returning with the jacket. Let me know when you wish him dispatched. Okay. Here it is. I'm not gonna let you wear it so you can try to run. The cannons will waste your ass and then fuck up a good piece. Understood. Just show me how it works. He flipped the jacket on the counter and showed the sleeves. On the sleeves, there's a toggle switch. This is dope. It'll do a sweep of the wearer, and once it has your height and weight figured out, it'll project a constant ball of energy around you and you'll be invisible like this. He pressed the button and a slight hum was audible, and then the jacket and the entire display case shimmered and vanished. Fuck. Okay. Deal, motherfucker. I pulled on my bag and slowly opened it and showed him the satchel I had there, then started pulling out credits. He shut down the jacket and was grinning. How long does the battery last on the jacket? About 10 minutes fully charged. Sunlight will recharge it. Normal lights, like these, will take a lot longer to charge it, but it'll work. Daylight requires about 30 minutes. House lights, maybe 10 hours. You probably will need to Google that shit to double check. Yes, he is correct. I have data on it already. Good. When he is clear of the jacket and I say boom, hit him. Okay. I went into the satchel and saw the woman had close to 2,000 in it and I grabbed some from my wallet and handed it to the man. He began counting it and I walked down the counter and looked at items he had there. He followed me, as I hoped he would, and when I was sure he was clear of the jacket I smiled at him. I then held my hand up like my fingers were guns. He looked at me and stopped counting. What the fuck are you doing, retard? I just wanted to say it's nothing personal. But when you leave a safe open like you did there, I just can't help myself. His eyes widened and he went to slam the red button on the wall and he yelled protection. I grinned and said boom, as I acted like my fingers fired. The room exploded and the look of confusion on his face was priceless as his own guns destroyed him. Please hurry. There are alerts happening nearby. I anticipate authorities here in 10 minutes. I nodded and jumped over the counter. Clear all the footage. Already done. I saw a large bag on the ground behind the counter and grabbed it, then hurried over and opened the safe and started throwing the contents into the bag. Seeing the leather-wrapped item, I eyed it for a second, then in the bag it went with the other items. I took the huge pile of credits and some jewelry I saw. I grabbed the rifle as well and went back to the main display area. I grabbed the jacket and put it on. It fit like a glove. I pressed the sleeves and saw the area around me distort slightly. I grabbed the ring and satchel as well as the loot and exited the building. I got to the car, and once the door was opened, tossed everything to the passenger seat and started manually driving the car. I can take you where you need to go, Mr. Pike. You do not need to drive. Quiet. Yes, sir. Any hounds, Scan? Yes, one is en route. Behind us or in front? Behind. I nodded and gassed it. I wanted to make sure I had some distance between me and the metallic beast. I saw a pair of large buildings that were next to each other which would provide me with a good vantage point of the area below. I went and parked the car 20 feet above the roof of the larger building. Any cameras here? No. Plus, the storm will hide us. Good. I want to see what the fuck is all wrapped up. It's like Christmas. I opened the bag and pulled the leather-wrapped object and started to unravel it. There was a hideous book contained within. What the fuck are you? Scanning it is not possible. There is some form of energy blocking my sensors. Really? Yes. The book was covered in a leather-like material and the surface appeared to be contorted faces stitched together. Is the material made out of skin? Are those fucking faces? I can't be sure, but the book does appear to be wrapped with skin from faces. I see 7 sets of nostrils and the eyes are sewn shut, so I do think your suspicion is correct. What the fuck? There were 2 thick iron bands that wrapped around the book and the locked areas had a plate that held the locks in place. There was a small impression, almost a groove, but there was no form of keyholes. Scan beeped. What? That was the alarm you had me set earlier. You wanted to make sure you would return before Jessica woke from the sedatives you had given her. It's now 1 a.m. Oh shit, you were right. It was part of my alibis. I would fuck the hell out of Jessica, but right before we started, I made sure to drug her up. Then I would return and wake her up and continue ravaging her while getting her shit-faced. I had scanned play with the clock so she'd have memories of certain times, so even if a psychic interviewed her, she'd believe it and they'd have no evidence. It had worked once already, and I figured it was always a win-win situation. I was always horny as hell after a kill, and a solid fuck always threw the cherry on top. When will she be awake? 30 minutes. We are 10 minutes from the suite. Okay, take me home, I commanded of the car, and it responded. I turned my attention back to the odd book. I pulled my knife and tried to work on the lock area. We hit some turbulence and the car bucked wildly and I slid the blade into my hand. Fuck. The weather has gotten worse. You're injured? Not bad enough to require stitches. You fucking think? Corey. What? The book has transformed. The fuck you going on about? I looked down and the book's lock was gone and there was some of my blood on the book. The eyes on the book were no longer stitched shut. There were eyes there now, staring at me. I was startled and tossed the book from my lap into the passenger seat and it landed and was sitting in an open position. Corey, I think you should read the passage that's there. Why? It has your name on it. What? I grabbed the book and looked at the passage. Above it, there were passages written in a language I didn't recognize. Sumerian. Okay. And then Egyptian. Under that. Let me read this. It read. The blood of the holy will begin the game. Riches, women, power and more can be claimed. Either find the errors of thy way, or avoid Mistima's wrath for a day. Reap thy reward and avoid the rack. Offered to you Mr. Corey Black. What the fuck? It appears to be a riddle. I have tried to decipher the other languages, but there is not enough data in my system to do so. What do you make of the riddle? It seems to be a challenge. Yeah, I get that. What do you think? I am at a loss. The fact I cannot scan the book alone concerns me. Something in me was getting excited. This was uncharted territory for me. The last time I was faced with the unknown, and bold action was required, I had managed to kill a major crime boss and take his identity. With my help? Yeah. We are home, sir, said the car as it approached the landing pad. Scan, scrub this bitch and make sure there's nothing in here that can be retrieved later. I'm already working on it. I closed the book and threw it in the bag, then tossed it into the back seat. When the vehicle was done with its shutdown, I walked into the changing room and hung the new stealth jacket. The door in front of me was huge and a biometric scanner waited for me. I presented the eye that hung around my neck and waited. Welcome home, Mr. Pike. The door slid open and I walked quickly to the bedroom and tossed my clothes as I did. I passed the spacious 1,500-foot grand room and a few other smaller rooms until I got to the master bedroom. I saw her where I had left her. I slid into the bed and was already feeling aroused. I put one arm under her and waited as I controlled my breathing. My heart was racing and I was unsure if it was because of the evening's adventures thus far, or the one I planned on having after dealing with Jessica. I would advise against the instructions in the book. I have been investigating since we have gotten back home and I believe the book is referred to as the Necronomicon. The book is supposed to be the work of fiction, made up by a famous author. But the book we've been examining matches descriptions that I am finding on databases. Specifically military databases. Really? How exciting. Jessica moaned slightly. Hold that thought. Need to take care of business here. Come on, lightweight. Let's keep this party going. I slapped her naked ass hard. Hard enough to leave a handprint. I needed to have moments like this to accentuate events for her fragmented memories to connect. Just in case. She rolled over, anger in her eyes. Ouch. Oh, relax, baby, just wanted your blood boiling so I get it flowing where it needs to. You like it when daddy is rough, don't you? She was groggy, but I saw the reaction in her eyes. She saw my engorged cock and smiled. She gave Gloria's head, and as she did, I finger fucked her vigorously to orgasm until she collapsed and I came in her mouth. She lay there panting. I got up and got 2 glasses and poured in some vodka and added a special mix of chemicals, which would not only put her in a more agreeable mindset, but also cloud up memories and knock her out for 4 or 5 hours. I handed her the glass with the mixture in it and sipped mine. No, babe, I don't want to drink anymore. I'm not feeling good. Did I fucking ask you if you wanted it or not? I don't drink alone. You know the fucking rules. Drink it, or I'll find a tube and pour it in your gaping asshole. You want that? The tone of my voice caused her to recoil slightly. But then she got fire in her eyes and shook her head. You're a fucking asshole, you know that? I nodded. Yup, but I'm rich as fuck and you love my cock. So drink your fucking drink. She shrugged and downed the glass like a champ, and I retrieved the glass from her. You want some more of this cock? She thought about it and smiled. Maybe a little more in a few minutes. I'm still sensitive from the thrashing you gave my pussy. Okay, I'll be in the study. I'll be back in 15 minutes and you better have that kitty ready. She nodded and yawned. How long? I'm thinking in about 3 minutes. She's gone. Okay, the book said something about blood of holy? Yes. You aren't seriously considering? You bet your ass I am. Fuck 'em. Fucking priests. You know a spot close by? Yes, there's a church about 13 minutes from here. Okay, once Jessica is out, we're heading out. I can hear her snoring. Damn, she is a fucking lightweight. I gathered my clothing and the new jacket and dressed up quickly. I took the rifle from the car and placed it in the study's closet near the bathroom, then returned to the car. How long till she wakes back up? Can you tell? The way she is sleeping now, if you do not wake her, I would imagine she'd sleep until noon. If something makes enough noise, she'll wake up to it within 3 hours. Plenty of time to check this shit out. I'll continue my research while we go. You do that. I started the car back up and sent the GPS information to the vehicle, and we were off and moving. My cock was still tingling from the blowjob and I had to shift my pants slightly as we drove. We settled down and I could see the church illuminated by occasional lightning strikes off in the distance. I pulled the book from the bag and flipped pages, and as I did, I noted Scan was processing images. There were various forms of atrocities contained within the pages and I saw diagrams on cutting people open. There were also pages which appeared to be directions with lists of items in various languages. Some of the writing I saw was in Chinese, Japanese, Russian and older languages. I tucked the book under my arm and placed the car on active defense mode. I walked to the entrance of the church and the rain began to lessen a bit. I pressed a button on the call box on the front of the doors. The church is closed to all but the most devout. I am devoted. I doubt that. Most people say that same thing with the hopes of gaining access into our walls to steal. We send a great many sinners to the Heavenly Father. Do you wish to do the same? I smiled. He didn't fuck around. I liked the priest. No. I just need sanctuary. I am going through some things and need to gather my thoughts. I do my best thinking in church. Where have you attended? Cathedral of St. Mary of the Assumption. Really? Yes. That church has been empty for a while now. It was a while ago. I was a teenager. And lately? Need a name. Okay, tell him. St. Ignatius Church. St. Ignatius Church. Ah, Father McNeely? The book is active. I flipped the book so I could see the front, and glowing in red, the words there read no, Father O'Donnell. Holy shit. Indeed. No, there's a Father O'Donnell there. I don't know a Father McNeely. There was a pause. Okay, who betrayed Jesus for silver? Judas. You know some of this? Yeah, I used to be Catholic ages ago. Interesting. For how much? Excuse me? How much did Judas betray for? The book flashed again and showed 30 pieces of silver. 30 pieces of silver. Okay, door will open, head straight to the second set of doors. There was a distinct thunk and I opened the door and hurried in. My heart was racing. I continued forward and there was the main entrance to the church. I pulled the doors but they were secured firmly. 1 second. Not as young as I was before. The doors were unlocked, and they opened to reveal a tall, slender, black man with a rough beard and a stern countenance. My name is Father Michaels. If you try any funny business, I have some security drones flying around. Yes, there are two. Problems? No. I nodded. No, nothing like that. I have some issues I need to resolve, and I needed somewhere safe to discuss them. Someone who I can discuss with. I sense perhaps some confessions as well. When was the last time you gave confessions? Oh, a long time ago. People still do it? Not as much as they should. But yeah, I guess you're right. Not that many Catholics feel it's important anymore. What troubles you? I have issues with my fiancé and also with my brother. Well, come on in. We're letting the cold in. I nodded. He stepped to the side and I entered. There is another person in the back room and there are two women in the room to the right. The main church area here is empty. I walked to the front of the church and saw Jesus up on the cross and sneered slightly, then sat in the front pew. The priest followed me and sat close by. If you need a pair of ears, I'm here, or I can continue what I was doing before you called on us. Father, I'd like your opinion on something. Yes, my son? Scan, make sure you have those drones down. Working on it. I'll let you know when I am done. My fiancée is Wiccan. She keeps talking about shit. I mean, stuff like the threefold law. And about stuff like karma and reincarnation. He smiled and nodded. Ah, I see the dilemma here. You're raised in the faith and she has beliefs which are contrary to your own. I nodded and sighed heavily. Yeah. How can I help her find the way? Well, you can accept she has her beliefs, and you have yours. God's love is infinite. He forgives all. The path to him is through Jesus Christ. And people sometimes find their way to him in odd routes. Is she a good woman? Overall? I nodded. I thought so. I am close now. Continue your conversation. I mean, she's smart, crazy good and, she's very loving and takes care of my needs. She's a giver for sure and she cares about people. He chuckled. And my son, I think you're fine. Sounds like perhaps she may have been raised differently than you and I. I nodded and thought back to my childhood. My parents were hardcore. We went to church, had Bible studies, and I loved it. It was part of my identity. What happened? I'll tell you later. Remind me. Okay. I have disabled the drones. Yes, but then I found this, Father. I'm gonna warn you. There's stuff in here. I don't even know. I handed the book to the priest and his eyes widened. He flipped a few of the pages and his mouth was aghast. While he was distracted, I pulled my blade free and waited until he looked up and made eye contact. I don't know what to say. He began. He looked up and I nodded. Messed up, right? Where did she get this? Actually, I swung quickly and slashed his throat. Blood splashed me and some sprayed on the book. He dropped it and grabbed his neck and stumbled back and tried to escape me. It's my book and I need the blood of holy people. He fell and I slammed his head on the floor and he stopped moving. Where is the other person? Past the altar. But he's moving away from us. Running? No. The women? Back and then you're left. I nodded. I walked back and found the room Scan was talking about and heard female voices. I opened the door quickly and saw it was two nuns who were surprised, and when they saw the blood, paused. I quickly slashed them and when they were down, I grabbed them and dragged them towards the front of the church. I dragged the priest as well and all the blood was leaving a long trail. What do you plan to do now? The book wants blood of holy. Shit, I got a lot of it now. I went back and saw the room the nuns were in had a couple of buckets and a mop. I grabbed the buckets and then returned to the bodies. I slit the throats of the nuns after I placed them over the buckets. When the buckets were half full, I poured one into the other. I retrieved the book and dropped it into the bucket. Nothing happened. Well, that was a tremendous waste of fucking time. The ground jolted suddenly, and I nearly fell. What the fuck? Earthquake is beginning now. What? This one wasn't forecasted. Seek cover. I ran forward and saw the altar and took refuge there. Then all hell broke loose as the earthquake began wrecking the place. Scan? 8.5 on the Richter scale. I'm more concerned about the book. I looked back to where I had left the book. It was hovering in the air above the bucket and blood was streaming up and into the book. The blood from the smears on the ground also began to rise up and flow into the book. After what felt like an eternity, the book flashed once and then fell to the ground with a thunderous boom. At the same moment, a lightning bolt hit the church and I could hear the explosion it created outside. There are multiple anomalies occurring now. I am sensing a huge electrical flux of energy as well as wild temperature variations in the room. Fuck me. Another massive explosion filled the area, and then everything became very still. I heard the sound of steam rising and a low growl filled the church. Corey, we are not alone. What do you mean? There is a thing behind the alert near us. Drones? I've called them in. They are on the way. I quickly engaged the jacket and felt the vibration and knew I was next to invisible. Whatever it was that was behind the altar, I was sure it wouldn't be able to see me at least. The altar groaned under the weight of something massive, and above me, just barely visible to my peripheral view, I saw something peering over the edge staring at me. Corey Black. A voice boomed out. I was silent. I heard the sound of something sniffing the air. I smell your blood. I wish to speak with you and set the rules. Do not make me seek you out. I was silent. Scan? The drones flew in and started firing, and I could hear the sound of flesh being pelted with ammo. I heard grunts and then a loud sickening thud as whatever it was fell to the ground. We good? I do not believe so. I heard a deep breath and the growl again. Suddenly the windows shattered, raining in glass throughout the church, and then lightning forked and hit the drones in the air. I watched as they exploded. Ah, so we wish to play games then? The whole altar I was hiding in front of suddenly lifted up and was tossed to the side as if the thing in front of me was tossing a small wastebasket. This is bad. You think? The thing stood over 13 feet tall and was nearly 12 feet wide. It had 4 legs, each set spaced evenly apart, with 2 in the front and 2 in the back. His skin color was nearly jet black with faint, barely visible scales. He had a massive cock, which initially Corey thought was a tail, until he saw the actual tail swing behind and beat. The cock was barbed and had spikes. To say the thing was muscular was a severe understatement. The arms were massive and were as thick as 2 of the legs combined, and the forearms had barbs which extended back along the arms. The barbs alone were easily 2 inches each and ended in wicked needles. Wings were folded in, and the thickness and width of every single wing was the thickness of the thing's body. Corey wondered how wide the wings were when they would extend out all the way. The head of the monstrosity stared at him with burning eyes. There were only 2 eyes, but they were larger than normal eyes would be on a face that size, and they stared at him with no eyelids. The thing did not blink. The nose was the only thing close to resembling a man's face. It was crooked and was obvious to anyone who gazed at it that it had been broken many times. The jaw seemed as if it were more snake-like, and the jaw hinged oddly, having at least 3 rows of teeth in the massive jaw. The face had, as did much of the body, small spiky patches. It stood scanning and seeking me out. I tried to hold still and not move, hoping it still couldn't see me. It sniffed again and smiled. With the speed that Corey didn't think something as large as the thing in front of him could possess, it snatched him with hands large enough to close fingers over his thighs and arms. It lifted Corey up and tossed him into the nearby wall which held the cross with Jesus on it. The cross toppled and almost crushed Corey, but the thing caught the cross and then discarded it like trash. Corey felt the jacket's power suddenly fade and saw it had been damaged and ripped slightly. There you are. Now that I have your attention, we need to have a conversation. I saw an opportunity and rolled and threw my knife, which hit the fucker in his face, and it screamed out in pain. I sprinted for the exit, and suddenly I felt invisible hands grab me and slam me against one of the support pillars in the church. I love the spirit, it said as I struggled. It was hard for me to breathe. Something was holding me firm. I can see the energy flow. It's coming from him. Yeah, well fuck you. I shall introduce myself now. I am the Hunter of Dark Souls. I am the Hound of Hell. I am Mistima, and you have summoned me. Oh, good. So you're gonna do what I say now? Since I summoned you? Mistima walked closer and laughed a deep, powerful laugh. No, you misunderstand. Yes, you have done the ritual and summoned me, but you do not control me. Okay, so what the fuck then? Mistima stood staring at me. I could smell the stench coming from his breath. The skin was oozing some sort of thick liquid which was foul-smelling. The stench nearly made me puke. He stared at me and nodded and pulled the blade out of his cheek, then glared at me. We have 2 ways to go about this. I could simply snatch you now and bring you to hell. Or I could play the game with you. How do I get all the good shit that the book said? Oh, the women, power, gold? I nodded and smiled. Yeah, that stuff. The game. His eyes lit up. Yes. Rules. I release you. Normally, you have to survive a whole day, but that is boring. How about you just have to avoid me until sunrise? That's only 4 hours roughly from now. If though, I catch you 3 times, then the game is finished. I hope you are sport. It has been such a long time since I've enjoyed a good hunt. He leaned in and stared into my eyes. He raised a giant finger which had a wicked talon that he took and ever so gently slid into my forehead. He began moving it and cutting some shape into my head. He had blood and some of my flesh on his fingertips and he tasted it. His eyes rolled back and he looked orgasmic. "You are truly an evil fuck," he said to me as his eyes flipped back to focus on me. Says the creepy monster getting off on my blood. "Scan, are you doing anything?" "Yes, I am trying to analyze for weakness. Strategies. And I'm working on it." Swell. My blade looked like a toy in Mystima's hands. Both of us heard a noise from the far end of the church. The other person who Scan had informed me about earlier had decided to check on the priest and nuns. The door had opened, and the young man stared at us with his eyes wide with fear. Mystima tossed my blade and it covered the entire length of the church, hit the man in the head, and had enough force to knock him back into the room he had come from. "Do you understand the rules I have explained to you?" "Yes, catch me 3 times and I go to hell." But if I get away, I get all the goodies promised me?" "Yes. If you escape me cleanly until sunrise, I will personally grant you all the wishes you desire." Suddenly, I fell to the ground and could move. "And to show you how generous I am, I will allow you a 1-hour head start. Corey, take the advantage and run now." I nodded. "Okay, hope to not see you until morning." I ran out of the church and when I got outside, I could see the entire building. It looked like a bomb had gone off in it. "I told you I thought this was a bad idea." I took off running towards the car. "Okay, fucking great. I get it. Bad idea. Fuck. I need solutions." "Not, I told you. Did you get any good information on it?" "Yes, it regenerates. It has a strength factor of 200, most likely capable of lifting 50 tons. It sampled your blood. Then it seemed to know things about you. I suspect it can fly as it has wings, so we will not be able to hide by flying away. Speed is incredible." "So you're saying I'm fucked?" "It is probable that he will capture you unless you get better weapons." I nodded. "Oh snap. How far is Dominic's arsenal?" "It would require we fly about 50 minutes." "Okay, send the info to the car. We need gear." "Done. I agree." The blade heard it. I could see the cellular level regeneration. It wasn't fast. In theory, if you could inflict enough damage, you could slow it down enough to make the time work for you. I nodded. We got to the car and I jumped in. "Go. Now." The car lifted off and I saw an explosion and there was a massive hole in the church roof. I could see Mystima rise up out of it and he flapped his wings and hovered there, watching me as my car rose. He waved slowly at me and smiled. I hit the accelerator button and quickly darted away.
Okay, that's going to end part 1 of Infernal Justice. It's a 2-part series here. So that ends part 1. Part 2 will be coming out pretty soon. We already have 3 simple rules out. You can check that out if you want to. We also have Rusted Blade. We will do the other 2 books pretty soon. So there will be Augmented Truth as well as Dude, Just Kill Yourself. Those will all be free audiobooks for you to enjoy. If you liked what you heard here, please feel free in sharing this with your friends and family. Let other people know, and also let me know what you think about it. I really enjoy it when readers and listeners let me know what they think. All right, that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.